All right, welcome to Pass the Mic. It is Friday, February 21st, 2025, episode 151. Joining me on Zoom, Michael Gervasi.
What's up? What's this? This is so exciting. This was,
Yes, we have with special. It's
yeah,
always good when we have a guest. Uh,
absolutely.
and we are welcoming Carlson alum, class of 2004. We're not, we're giving away an age of a lady, but she's still a much younger lady than us. So, Danielle Oubeck, welcome.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. As I said, this is the highlight of my life. So, not
Well,
sarcastic one bit.
well, thank you. We're glad to have you. We love throwing guests. Guests are always usually our highest rated episodes.
Yep.
So
Yes.
the people want to hear more of our guests than us for clear reasons. So we have a lot to talk about with Danielle, published author, college grad. Before that though, feedback from last week. You want me to start, Mike? The
Go
pizza
ahead. Yeah.
toppings, the overrated, underrated pizza toppings struck a chord as we figured it would. Um, I'm sorry, Rennie the Ren Dog hated both of our underrateds.
Yeah.
Absolutely hate. I had the early morning text from the Ren Dog. He said both hamburger and banana peppers are awful, and just blasted
Ooh.
us right away.
Haters
However,
gonna hate. Haters gonna hate.
yes, however, the UP aficionado liked my idea of the banana peppers and feta cheese and is going to try it. So hopefully I paired that off. And then Jill Burguy texted this morning. Did you get that? Did you see that?
Great text. Great text.
That sausage is overrated because you never know what you're going to get with sausage.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes each to their own with what they want is sausage. And then underrated green olives.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Danielle,
beg to
what's
differ
your
with
thought?
that, but
Are you an olive person on a pizza?
Yeah, I get the pizza just to get the olives that are
Okay.
warm and eat them off. But
Black or green though?
I'll eat both, but I prefer
Both.
green. It's got
Okay.
that rich sodium taste.
Yeah, a little kick to it. I like olives too. I don't get them on a pizza. I've had black. The Ren Dog was a big black olive guy, I think too, though. I think that was one that he said was good. Do you got some more stuff, Mike?
quite a bit actually. First off, I got to go back to a few weeks ago. I forgot to mention this last week. I did live with Max Bailey, so that was kind of brought up. I did live with him for a period of time from probably about 8 months.
Okay.
So I was just wanted to make sure that was clarified. Mr. Gary Bailey wanted that clarified as well. Speaking of Mr. Gary Bailey, he it was the Super Bowl 40, right? The one that was played at I almost said
Ford
the
Field.
Silverdome at Ford Field, and that was Pittsburgh's own Chris Bailey, Mr. Bailey's wife. Loved that Super Bowl, so I wanted to make sure I made mention of that. Um, Jill Burguy ran into her, and she said for an executive order, she wants the president to tell parents to shut up at sporting events,
Well, that's going to
and
tie into our overrated, underrated.
it is. And Danielle, that's maybe you could talk a little bit about youth sports coaching too. I'm
Yes.
sure you can
We're
offer some
giving away a
insights
lot
there.
of
Yeah,
hints
a little
here.
bit. Yeah. Max Bailey, you two could not be more wrong about your take on pepperoni. Pepperoni is the standard because the masses like it. He
Yeah, and
really,
Denise Browning, Italian, you're live, we did the DNA testing. I can't speak as an Italian anymore. Ancestry kicked me out of that group. But she said as Italians, we should be ashamed of what we did to pepperoni.
yeah. But again, I
Wow.
don't eat pork, so this is like
Well, again, overrated doesn't mean bad.
doesn't mean bad. Elizabeth Pate sent us a pretty lengthy article. I don't know if you read it on Kendrick Lamar. It was a really good article. If you get a
He
chance to
won
read
what?
that,
What did the award he won?
the
A
Pulitzer.
Pulitzer?
Yeah,
Pulitzer, yeah.
really cool stuff. Mr. Tony gave us a lot. Um, I'll start. He likes barbecue chicken on pizza. That's his underrated. Surprised a little on pepperoni getting some hate there. Pineapple is his overrated, so make sure to give him a shout out. Let's see here if there's anything else. I want to make sure I don't leave anybody out. Um, Gary Bailey again. Halftime show was okay, but he didn't understand the words. That seems to be a lot of people's complaints in the older-ish generations, shall we say. And I think that's about it. Yeah.
You
So
mentioned uh we had the other was the executive order. Kim Laura reached out to me today, our expert flight. We're gonna put her as our flight. Whenever there's a plane crash, which has been happening a lot, they have the guy in like the nightly news who's the aviation expert. I'm
yeah,
officially appointing Kim Laura as our aviation expert.
awesome.
Okay, so we have another person with a job.
Another role on
Uh,
the show. Yeah.
at Dr. Rice, don't worry about what her salary is. It's the same as everyone else's. Zero.
And Rocco Georgie, don't be jealous that you lost your job and we've hired other people.
But remember my sorry, I'm not laughing about plane crashes. My executive order was the
I hope
seatbelt
so.
thing. Well, it got tested in Toronto just this week. What if the pilot would have been incapacitated in that crash? Everyone's seatbelts would have been locked. They would have been upside down. We would have been sued. First flight that they try it on. Hey, why can't these people get out of the plane? They're like, oh, if you pass the mic, seatbelt lock is on.
Yeah, you're right. We'd be out of a job. We wouldn't be allowed on the air anymore.
She messaged me this morning and she's like, I don't know about your seatbelt lock. So maybe there's some like an emergency pull or something somewhere. I don't
Okay.
know that flight attendants can get to or something. No. All right. It is time for our stock questions for our guests. Every guest we have on, we have the same questions. So Danielle, first of all,
Whoa. We didn't get
what?
to the mic of the week.
It comes after the questions.
Does it really?
Yeah.
I didn't
We
I didn't introduce myself.
Yeah, what about that, Mike?
well, we did one at the beginning. Danielle, why don't you take a little bit and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get to your questions.
I'm the new producer for Mic of the Week, or Pass the Mic. I'm Danielle. I graduating from Carlson in 2004. I was that your first year?
It was, but it was an unofficial year, so I wasn't brought back the next year. I came back 2 years later. So technically yes, but officially no.
Were you like a
Because,
building sub?
I replacement sub, I think was what the
Placement teacher.
definition. Yeah.
oh, because it was government.
Yeah.
Yes. And we ran off, I think, 2 government teachers prior to you.
It was rough. It was a rough, but again, I attribute that more to me than you guys because I was young but yeah, there was a little bit of turnover before too. So
Yeah, we were a class.
yeah.
And then I was I have to call you guys Mr. Pehoty and Mr. Gervasi. I was Mr. Pehoty's assistant my junior year. And I don't know if you remember this, but I think about it every day of my life since. Do you remember when I shredded your state attendance records?
It was the remember, Mike, this is how long ago this was. It wasn't the state attendance records. It was we had to do the bubble sheets.
Yeah, the
Remember this,
bubbles
Mike?
Yes.
every day. Yeah.
And every day instead of on a computer. This is pre-internet. And I gave them the Danielle, I think, to deliver to the office. Totally a violation of FERPA law, by the way. But I think the statute of limitations is expired
Yeah.
on
Run
that.
I
out.
think I think you're gonna be okay.
This is also when I was teaching. So now here I was teaching English at the time. Danielle was
Whoa.
not a library assistant. I was in the classroom.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, this is how. And somehow there was some miscommunication. Something got lost in translation. And instead of my attendance being turned in, they were shredded. The scripts, the scan sheets.
Oh man.
Which
I I was talking to Miss Fish at the time, and I was like, wouldn't it be funny if I shredded these? And I waved it. I was a good 2 feet away from the machine, and it sucked it
uh,
in. So
Wow.
I think about that all the time.
What was Mike's reaction to that?
Well, I asked Fish, I was like, can you go tell him I did that? And she was like, no. And I think you just told me to put my head down and just take a nap.
I don't think I think of all my reactions over time. I think I was
Put
like more
your head
shocked.
down and take a nap. What?
I think I was more shocked that this happened than like I was like really like at first I thought it was like a joke. I think is how this happened because like I'm like there's no way, and then it was like more shock than anger. It was like because I was actually at that point more scared too because you know what the regime was like back then, Mike, and like I'm like I don't even know if you get
Yeah.
more of these. I don't
Yeah,
what can
I could imagine. I would have been freaking out now. But I gotta, Danielle, what's really funny is Mike is now. Listen, I'm gonna preface by saying he does a million things for the building, but in the grand scheme of things, his day should not be as stressful as it is, and he overreacts to everything. That's why I was curious. So to tell you to put your head down and go take a nap,
I
that
think
doesn't seem like a very fitting punishment for this, but
uh
nevertheless.
I think it was
Um,
probably surprising. You were like, "Oh wow, this kid is not developed."
oh man, what a great story. And, hey, it's a throwback to when I was in the classroom. So
yeah.
Yeah.
all right. Well, welcome, Danielle. Sorry, we sort of skipped over, but
Yeah.
we have you here, and now we're going to find out some more about you because we are going to do our stock questions.
Okay.
So, When is your birthday, for the record?
Aug- August 23rd.
Oh yeah, just 2 days after my sister Katie. All right. It is your birthday. You can have anything you want for dinner, out or cooked in. What is your birthday meal?
Okay, so I could not choose. So what I'm gonna do is have my mom make salmon patties and
Mm.
put them in a Ziploc bag with lemon. And then I'm gonna put them in my pocket and I'm gonna take them to Long John Silver's, where I'm gonna get a number two, which is chicken with fries and hush puppies, and then I'm gonna eat those with my salmon patties from my mom.
So a
Wow.
combination.
Yes,
So
it's
you're
my
going up to,
birthday,
yeah, it's
so
you can do
Oh
whatever
yeah,
you
you can do
want.
whatever you want.
What
yeah,
isn't the Long John Silver's? There's one up in Taylor, right? Is it up
yeah.
on Eureka?
It's
Is there still one in
remodeled.
Lincoln Park?
No,
No, I don't
That's
think that
fun.
one's there.
yeah,
So
but the one in
you're
Taylor, shout out to Greg. He works there. My boy manning the grill. It's remodeled. All the food is really hot every time you go.
I,
We got to
I
keep it
remember
open.
I remember when it first opened, it was a big hit on Downriver and Friends, like the wait and all that stuff. So I listen, I'm a fan. I like it. I'm old enough to remember the original one up on Allen and Woodhaven that had like the whole
Yeah,
nautical theme going, where
bring
like
it
you had
back.
the boat dock, like you had to
Yeah.
walk in with a rope and
Yes.
all right, Mike, take it away.
All right. First off, you mentioned Downriver and Friends. Shout out to regular listener Chris Pate, who's a star now in Downriver and Friends. I'll start with
Oh,
that.
he got into the homeschool argument a little
He
bit today.
did. He did. We won't
Oh,
go too deep into that. Second, before I get to the second question, I don't want to forget. I just you did something, Mike, and I've noticed, and I do it too. A lot of people, when somebody tells you a birthday, why do we all feel? Because my mind went there too. Oh,
Like,
that's
oh,
10 days
someone
from.
you know?
Yeah, like
Yeah, I
my
don't
niece
know.
is like, what is
It's
Danielle
always
supposed to
somebody.
say to that?
Somebody's close.
Yeah, and like
She
Daniel,
doesn't care about Katie.
right? And she's oh, like what? And how is the person supposed? Oh,
I
wow,
know.
that's
It's
crazy.
just like
two
it's built
days,
in.
right?
It's
It's
like
built into.
you know,
It's so natural.
it's like you
Anyway,
touch a hot pan and you pull away.
right. But again, my mind naturally went to oh, my niece's birthday is 10 days before that. So anyway, um, where were we? Oh,
no,
second
you know
question.
what? On that topic, I'm gonna say I don't know if other people do this, but so your her birthday's 2 days before mine, so she's a Leo. I'm on the Leo Virgo cusp. So when people say that in my head, I'm like, oh, are they similar to me? Do we share?
Yeah, that's what I do too. I don't because I'm a May 1st, and I always ask like if I hear I forget. I don't know. I'm not as well versed in the cutoffs. I just like if somebody's later in May, I'm like, oh, are you still a Taurus? And like they either tell me yes or no, or because I know Taurus starts in April and ends in May. I don't know why they just weren't full months to make things easier, but that's a whole
Sure,
nother
there's a
story.
reason.
I'm sure maybe one of our listeners can lighten us on
Yes.
that question.
Yeah.
All right. So Danielle, salmon patties. That's really unique, by the way, too. We haven't heard anything like that. Who are you eating with?
Okay, I don't want you to think that I'm like crazy about celebrities because I don't care about them. I do, however, care about Muggsy Bogues, and that would be and he likes Long John Silver's. I read an article one time where he talked about it, so it would be nice. He'd probably like my mom's salmon patties too.
Okay, so Danielle, I think you're gonna have to enlighten the listener on who Muggsy Bogues. I mean, this interview is going great. Can you tell us who Muggsy Bogues is and why? Is it because he likes Long John Silver, or what's the story with him?
Um, oh my God. Okay, where do I start? So Charlotte Hornets era Muggsy Bogues.
Yeah.
I would hope he had like one of the spare starter jackets that he could bring for me
Oh my
because the
God.
the kids who had those top tier, I had a friend
I
with
had the
them.
hat. I had the hat.
Okay, so obviously you were cool as hell in school because
Taylor
No, I
Taylor
wasn't.
Hoover.
I promise you I wasn't. I went to West, Mike. West is the
Oh,
best.
that's right. Hoover's a loser.
Yeah, Hoover's a loser. Wow, that's so cool. So just to add on to that a little bit, Muggsy Bogues, smallest player ever to play in the NBA. I think he was listed 5'3".
yeah, he
Man,
was.
that is this interview is going great. That is really cool.
But he
Um,
cooked. I mean, if you watch, I think he led for a while in assists. So
yeah, and there's a internet story. I think it's being denied, but Michael Jordan really referred to him in a derogatory fashion one time, trying to get him to shoot the ball.
yeah,
I think it's been denied by others, so we don't know if it's true or not. I won't repeat it on the air because we are family friendly. So
I think, but I think Muggsy confirmed that because I remember
Oh, he did.
seeing an article or watching. I always say I read an article. It's probably something I seen on TikTok, but um, I remember hearing him say MJ said that. So
Okay.
that's disappointing.
Yeah, it is. But I hate Michael Jordan anyway, so I'm
Oh, same. Yeah.
There we
yeah.
go. See, look at this. This is a match made in heaven.
Yeah. I do think he's the GOAT though. I do think he's the GOAT, but I do. I do. Can't stand him, but I think he's the GOAT.
Okay.
Well,
Agreed.
we know who's not going to be your Mike of the week after that little bit. So who is your Mike of the week then, Danielle?
Um, okay, I did a lot of research. I was gonna say Michael Caine for his titular role in Muppets Christmas Carol, but I seen someone already picked him. He
Well,
was
you're
on your
allowed to pick.
wall.
Yes, yes, but you we don't guests are can do repeats, but you do you do
No.
you? Okay.
Okay. Um, then it was gonna be Mike Pehoty,
No.
but your Mountain Dew opinions kind of
Yes,
took you out of the running. So I'm gonna go with 80s, 90s era Michael Bean from he was Kyle Reese in Terminator.
Okay.
okay. Michael Bean.
Was so it listen, I'm not a Terminator person. Was he the son?
He was the guy who came back to warn Sarah Connor. Have you
Gotcha.
seen Tombstone?
Years ago. I'm Googling up his
I
image
know.
right now though, so I do think I know who he is.
It's spelled Biehn.
Okay.
He was Johnny Ringo in Tombstone. I don't know
Yeah.
what kind of podcast this is, but
Oh,
you need to watch some good
oh,
cinema.
some 90s. I did watch Tombstone.
I
Yeah.
I
did.
did.
It's been so long since I've seen that. I'm trying to see what else he was in.
That was like it. I think he just like quit after that. But man,
Those are two big movies.
The
he was
Rock. I did see The Rock. He was in The Rock.
yeah, he always played like a Marine or something. But he was the epitome of cool in like
Okay.
94.
There we go. All right. Well, I'm not Mike's the big movie guy. I'm not the big I mean, I'm watching but of course that's when I was actually watching movies. So I guess I'm to and I did see both of those. And I think I saw The Rock too.
Go back and watch Tombstone.
Okay.
It's worthy of your time.
Yes.
The Art of
I
War. He
will.
was in that. I'm just looking at all the movies he was in. I have seen some of these. Um, yeah, Tombstone. I didn't realize Tombstone was made in 1993.
Year I
Yeah.
graduated.
Yeah.
What a cast. You got
That
Bill
Oh
was
my
that
God,
was a
you're
good movie. I
right.
do remember seeing Tombstone. I did watch that. That was a great movie.
and Michael Bean was like opposite of Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday. He had to come hard like
Oh
against
yeah.
that talent
Yeah.
and whew, yeah,
All
go
right.
watch it.
Good Mike. Good Mike.
Very good. Like he was actually on an episode of Criminal Minds. Yeah, I'm just okay. We don't need to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but yeah, really interesting. And his face looked familiar, and I think that's why I remember him in Criminal Minds.
Yeah, and I mean, you grew up in the 90s, no? I mean, you should know
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
terms.
Blood.
Start going to movies at the Star Taylor.
Yes.
I did, but blood and guts weren't my thing, so Terminator kind of freaked me out a little bit. So
Well, great, Mike. That's what we don't. That is one we don't have, even for a guest. That's great. That's a
Thank
new one.
you.
All right, education topic. As we do with our guests, we're going to sort of focus on our guests. So I want Danielle to start off by just sort of saying, once she left Carlson in '04, what was her education path after that? She mentioned a little bit about taking some English in college and her career. And then the second half of this, we're going to sort in. She is a published author, which is very cool. We want to talk a little bit about her book that has that she has out currently. And then we Never Better, right? 2023.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
And then we will revealing one that's on its way out. So let's start though with your education career, how things went once you left OAC way back in '04.
Well, I wouldn't say way back.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So right out of school, I went to U of M Dearborn and thought I wanted to um, become a teacher in English. English has always been like my hobby, like words and reading and all that. And I just I knew what my interests were, but I did not know like where the overlap was with having a good salary and a work-life balance and all that. So I went from there and I moved to Chicago and I started doing hair. Did that for a couple years, but that was before like the real renaissance of social media. Like you couldn't really like advertise yourself on Instagram and all that like you can now. So it was a lot of handing out business cards and trying to build a clientele, and it was not very profitable for me. So I wound up getting a job um, in healthcare and the business side of it, and I was like, oh wow, I this is where I'm supposed to be. And I searched and what kind of education I needed to work in healthcare. I really wanted to wear scrubs. So I landed on nursing, and so I've been a nurse since then.
Where did you do your nursing education?
I got my RN at Henry Ford, and then I
Okay.
got my Bachelor's of Science at Ohio University.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, this goes, we've talked about this on plenty of episodes, Mike. You have a 17, 18-year-old, and they're telling you to either take out all these loans, take out all of this debt, or pay all this money and pick what you want to do at like 17. And I think Danielle
Right.
just gave a perfect example of why this is ridiculous and crazy.
Yeah.
She had this vision of what she wanted to do. Then she even went and sort of tried something else. And, it's so hard. And they're having us, the, the Zello email came out today, right? They're asking us for like 15 and 16-year-olds to start filling out surveys about what you want to do. And she gives, you worded it so perfectly. And this is something we talked about a little bit before. Danielle mentioned before we went on the air, we were talking about her books and her writing. Um, I've known Danielle for a long time prior to even shredding my attendance. I knew her in ninth and 10th grade, and her use of language to me always impressed me. Vocabulary, her wittiness, and when I read her book, when I read Never Better, I could hear her, and she to me has a great vocabulary and a great. I'm not surprised that she's a writer. I'm not surprised at all, and we're going to grant that a little bit move on in a bit, but um, I totally get it. Like when I was going off to school, they're like, "Oh, you can't." I was like someone that loved to write and taught. I would write and read, and like you can't go into English. There's no English jobs. And they're like
Yeah,
saying, "Go into computer science," you know.
yeah,
And I'm like, okay. And I start failing classes in that because I can't stand it. And again, also you're like, oh, you'll never, if you don't get a job, you're not going to pay the bills. So again, it's a great path. And then you were able to actually then, how long have you been nursing then? How long have you been in nursing?
um, about 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, it yeah, that was one of the things. I don't feel like um I guess life or school did a good job of preparing us. I thought, okay, I'm going to go to college, this idea of college, and I can be a teacher, I can be a police officer, I could, be a doctor. There wasn't an idea like if someone had said, "Hey, you could go to school and be a librarian." But I didn't even that wasn't even like a thought, I guess. And they didn't do a good job when I went to school. We had like counselors at U of M Dearborn, but they weren't invested in the fact that you're spending, hundreds of dollars for credit hours, and you're making this choice I went to college at 17, and I didn't even have a brain until I was 25. So yeah, it's sad that what we expect of kids to know what they want to do, and there's a price tag on it.
Well
And
put.
sometimes I don't, yeah, I don't mean to interrupt. I don't feel bad
No.
about kids taking a year off. And like, you're like my daughter too. She went as a seven. I mean, she just turned 20 in November of her third year of school. She's a young, she's a young for her grade. So
Hmm.
And Danielle, just to kind of jump off that, and then I'll ask a question about the book. But I try as much as possible to bring in people in different fields uh, in economics class, just to at least expose students to something that they might not know. because it is, you're asking people at an age that, I mean, I just, the only thing I could equate this to, I went through a divorce here about 4 years ago, and I at age 42, and I wasn't ready for it at age 42, so I couldn't imagine. There's all these tough life decisions you have to make at a certain point. I couldn't imagine having to make these life altering decisions 17, 18, 19. I'm glad I became a teacher, and I'm very happy with what I do, but if I would have had to switch and all that stuff financially, I wouldn't have been able to do it. And so I'm glad you touched upon that. Can I ask now if there's actually a few questions, and I went and I looked this up on Amazon too. So I have a couple other questions, and we kind of talked before. What prompted you to write this book?
Um, well, kind of, I mean, I've always written ever since, elementary school. Since I could write, I've always written and kept like logs of essays I've done, and I've written for like local like op-ed type things. I always wanted to have a book published, but and I'm sure you both can relate to this. I think with any creative pursuit, it's very scary and vulnerable to put yourself out there and say, no one's making me do this. I just want to entertain you or to connect with you, or whatever your drive is. And then when my husband died, I was like, oh, like there's a clock running here. Like I'm not guaranteed to live to 90. And I thought maybe when I have life experience, I'll write a book when I'm 70, but that's not guaranteed. So I just kind of collected some of my essays, and a lot of them were written right after my husband died, and was going through the grief process. And um, I didn't find any writing that I truly connected with. And a lot of that was just because I'm not a very religious person. I'm a young widow. Where are people like me? And so I kind of collected these essays and um, connected with a lot of people. Like, I guess I didn't expect people to respond the way they did. I figured they would be like, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry for your loss," but they said I connected with them in a way that they hadn't before, and that just was like, okay, I'm free. I can be vulnerable with my creativity. And that was a long-winded answer, but
That's a great answer.
No, I think it's perfectly worded. Did you have more, Mike, that you wanted?
Yeah, and I just, Danielle, I went and looked the Amazon comments. You really touched some people, and that's got to be a good feeling for you. Um, one person, I think she mentioned, or he or she mentioned, ugly crying right away. That's got to make you feel really good. That's got to make you feel some fulfillment.
yeah, and that was part of it. I think just the whole writing process and putting it out there was very different from my personality. I'm not someone to overshare or really open up in that way. And when Andrew, my husband, died, I was like, what am I shielding myself from? Criticism. I'm gonna get criticism either way. And so reading people's comments and people I don't know who've read it and have reached out to me, I was like, this is the best feeling ever, other than being on your podcast. So it was good.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, as I read, and like you said, and the essays go all over the place. And again, you talk about the loss you experienced, but also some of the things that you enjoyed throughout again, I just loved it personally because, like I said, knowing you, to me, as I read, I'm sitting there and it's this. I'm like, I think I sent you a message or something right away after reading it, and I'm like, Danielle, this is it made me just smile because it reminded me of just you being the person you are. And like, to be writing, one of the hardest part is getting your voice and your voice being authentic. And because that's to me, when I start reading a book and I just can't get into it, it's because I don't hear a voice or something that's authentic, even if people I don't know. but even if to me, if I hadn't even known you, it just felt real. And I just enjoyed it. I mean, it was like one of those things I read it in one sitting. I'm sure some other people have said that too. They just sort of get going in it. So, and congratulations on putting yourself out there. I've been writing in notebooks for years. Because I think I even asked you too, like, how did you publish? This is something I really want to do. And I've been writing in notebooks for years. I've been keeping myself, I got multiple files on a computer, right? And just have never taken that next step. So I commend you for doing that. And I've already, I've asked you something like other things, like behind the scenes things that I'm sure our listeners don't want to need to know about like, hey, how do you, what software do you use and what do you use to publish? But do you want to talk about your next project that's up next?
Yeah, so the next book is called hold on, it's wordier than my first one. The first one's never better. This one is none of us have been here before. A lot happier than the other book. I do touch on grief and grief, 5 years out from Andrew's death, but it's a lot of like kind of coming of age at 38, and the title is actually inspired by one of my patients. I had this elderly lady who was a writer, and I was talking to her about, feeling vulnerable and being very critical of myself. And she was like, everyone is an amateur. We may have experts in fields, but none of us have lived here before. None of us are operating from a greater place than the other person. And um, I I write better than I speak, so I'm sure it'll make sense in the book. But it's just kind of this feeling of finding yourself in middle life and moving forward as a new person. And yeah.
For starters, you're still young. We'll be a middle. We're the middle age people. 38 is still quite young, even though I said way back in '04. I didn't mean that far back like us '90s guys are. But it sounds great. And I want to ask again, sort of just and I sort of do this whenever we have guests, because like Mike will often share these with his classes. And um the nursing field itself, is there anything you'd like to say to sort of say, like, because a lot of kids, we find, right, this is a field a lot of our students do go into. I know I was talking to, there's one of my student council members this year. She is a senior, and she's accepted to Bowling Green, and she got right into they have the cohort, right, like a lot of these, and she's into it. And so is there any advice you'd give to people working that want to possibly go into the nursing field?
It was one of the best decisions I've made. If you would have asked me coming out of high school, nursing would have been like dead last. That and maybe like underwater welding. Like I would have never thought, like, I don't want to touch anyone's poop and blood grosses me out. But you get into it, and it's kind of crazy how fast it becomes normal to you, and how things that maybe holding you back, it's like second nature. And nursing school sucks. It's hard. It's different than um, like my other degree, just because you're doing the clinical portion and the way they test, they're preparing you for the state licensure. So that part sucks, but you get through it and you get your job. And um, some days are worse than others, but I always leave work feeling like fulfilled, I guess.
Mm.
I don't like saying nursing is a calling because it cheapens the profession, but I really do feel like some people, myself included, are just called to being like a servant to people. And yeah, so I love nursing. It's flexible. It supports me and my daughter. And um, yeah, we need good nurses.
Danielle, can I come back to the book for a second? Do you keep up with like how do you know how the book is selling?
So I haven't actually checked on my book in a while. For a while, I was checking the metrics every month. It tells me like where it's selling from, um, if I promoted it, where people are seeing it and buying it from. Um, the major seller I have is Amazon, but like you could buy it on in Target and whatever. Um, Initially, it sold pretty well. I mean, if you self-publish, you're expecting to maybe sell like 100 copies, and I sold like 8,500 copies
Oh,
the
wow.
first year, which was more than I figured it was going to be my family and like me buying like 50 copies. But so that
That's
was,
great. Outstanding.
yeah, it was more than I could have hoped for. And I read a lot. I think if you're a writer, you are a reader, and I read a lot of essays and memoirs, and I read what I write, I guess. So yeah, I try and keep a pulse on what is selling and what people want to read.
So, and you're walking through Target and you see your book. That's gotta feel cool.
It hasn't happened to me.
Oh,
Um, they they had like they won't keep them in stock if they're not like, I don't know,
Okay.
it has to have some kind of um sailing matrix or whatever it was. I didn't pay attention because I didn't think it was going to sell.
sure.
Um, but when people sent me pictures of their book, and like when I seen reviews from people that I didn't personally know, I mean, I could kick a door down. I was like the Kool-Aid man. It was like just phenomenal.
Sure.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. When is the next one scheduled to be released?
It's supposed to be March 25th.
Okay. All right.
I don't have a pre-order link, but I should soon.
Well, when you get it to us, we'll put it on the Facebook page for sure.
Hmm.
No,
Okay,
we don't
sorry.
care what we don't
Sorry,
care
Dr.
about.
Rice.
Oh, man, she's
Yeah.
beating us to the jokes.
Yeah, she is.
One last quick thing before we get into overrated, underrated. Do you mind sharing like what type of nurse you are? What ER,
Um,
hospital?
so I
You don't
work,
need to the workplace, but like which type, I guess.
yeah, I work on a surgical floor, like a
Okay.
trauma surgical. We get a lot of orthopedic um surgeries. Before that, I worked in a surgery center, so I worked in the OR and pre-op and post-op. And if you had asked me in nursing school, I would have never said surgery,
Okay.
and it would have been like labor and delivery.
Okay.
Um, but I found myself there, and I work with the best people. Shout out to our surgical floor at Trenton. Um, I love working bedside. It's not for everyone, but I can't imagine not working bedside. But if you do have any very wealthy financier listeners who want to partner with me and open a hospice house, that's what I want to do.
Hmm.
Oh, well, there we go. We'll put that out there.
Yeah,
We
I'm sure there's tons. So
Yes, and as soon as they start financing the show with ads,
Yeah, right.
we will we'll tie them right in with you as well. We've praised nurses many a times. The Pates, who are famously commented on here, are two of our well-known friends that work in the field. And I go back to like when my wife had when we had our kids. We've always mentioned this. It's like always the nurses. Like the OBGYN came in for a second, checked on a few things, and then my wife had two C-sections, so it was always the nurses that were coming in there. And then last year, it's coming up to a year when my dad passed, the ICU nurses who were amazing over that stretch. I mean, that's I give you guys all the credit in the world because no knock to doctors, obviously. I mean, we knock Dr. Rice enough, but he's not even a medical doctor. But you guys are the guys that really are rolling up your sleeves and getting in there that most of the people see most of the time. Like and I still give credit to the morning shift nurse on the ICU is the one that said to it wasn't a doctor that said to my mom that, hey, you got to get your kids in here. It wasn't the doctor. And that was a big deal. Like my daughter was out in Ann Arbor, and the other people weren't saying that sort of stuff, and that was important. So
yeah,
and I don't know if she broke I'm not saying who it was. I don't know if you're
Yeah,
even
but
allowed to do that, but I think it's very important because again, you guys are the ones that see this and know what's going on.
right. Well, I think I mean it's similar to educators. If your profession needs a appreciation week, you're
Yeah.
yeah.
really getting beat up. And
When's yours? Is yours right around us in May?
It's the same week.
Oh, is
Yeah,
it
I think
really?
so. It's like they throw us, you, and police officers all in there together, I
Oh
think.
man,
Yeah.
we couldn't even get our own shine. What the heck?
Oh man, you go get a free bowl. Or
Right.
I don't even think it's a free bowl. I think it's like half off a bowl
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
not a bowl like at the dispensaries, like the Chipotle I was talking
Oh
We're
about.
man.
talking Qdoba, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, family
Family
friendly,
friendly here. Yeah,
family
yeah.
friendly. I don't know what they're giving out. All right, overrated, underrated. We have all have something in common. No, we're not all nurses. We have all coached youth sports at some point, and our kids have been involved in youth sports. So we figured, what a great way. We're gonna go overrated, underrated youth sports. Mike, what do you got? What's your overrated?
Man, listen, I'm saying all of it.
Uh-oh, here
From
we
the
go.
way referees are treated to I have so many notes here, so I'm just gonna say all of it. I think the problems that we see at sporting events are exacerbated by the travel circuit and youth sports in general. I think it's all. I don't know where this ends, so I'm just gonna blanketly say everything about it.
Oh, the whole thing.
Again, there's some positives. I'm gonna make sure when my underrated, I'm gonna accentuate the positive. But to me, I really I'm so jaded, and I'm assistant coach right now with the JV team this year, and I'm seeing some. I've really enjoyed it a lot more than I remember it because I've been out of coaching for about 3 years. But aside from the youth, but I also am seeing the negative parts, and I think it kind of is. It's way too much, and yeah, but I do have some positives to say too. But I'm just gonna say
Okay,
all
all
of it.
right. Overrated is not always bad. Danielle,
Not
what do you
always
got?
bad.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna kind of piggyback off that because I feel like the level of intensity and what parents expect out of kids, like I don't know, when I was in elementary school, we played rec ball and that was it. And like the really elites were going to play travel. Now everyone's on a travel team. Um, I don't know. They're going to practice 5 days a week, and uh, is there burnout? Like we're playing to the next level, but what about right now? Like, do these kids enjoy it? You know,
Right.
as a parent, I'm stressed out because my daughter's 11 and I'm like, okay, we have to play a couple times a week because by the time you get to middle school, you want to be able to make the team in middle school, and these kids
Yeah.
have been playing travel since they could walk. So, yeah, it's I think that's overrated for sure. And
Well,
refs, I feel so terrible for them. Oh my gosh, give them a pay raise.
It's horrible.
yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
yes. I agree with you. Like the pressure, like I just the things I hear about like getting ready. I mean, you're right. It is a totally different era of, like it feels like there is no just rec that's for fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that you. I mean, there is obviously there's leagues out there, but that's not enough.
yes.
I'm gonna get something very. You guys did general, which is great. Mine's very specific because I sort of I always hated this when Nate or even like when Chloe was in. They're both in gymnastics, which I love gymnastics. It was great because it's really an individual sport. It was talk about cost, but but it was a great conditioning sport. But like even when Nate was doing like summer league basketball stuff, it drove me nuts. Like you'd pay for them to do all this stuff, and then the admission fees to get into
Oh
these
my God,
leagues to
yeah.
watch these games were like out. You could, I swear, you could get to some Piston games for cheaper than
Yeah.
some of these Saturday basketball tournaments. Like, give me an upper bowl seat at Little Caesars, I'd be in there for cheaper.
Yeah.
Definitely on the resale market.
Yeah.
And I know it's an old bit, but to me, it's like and I get it. People have to make their money. So you're renting out this huge facility.
Sure.
Somebody stuff has to get, but some of these weren't the biggest and brightest places, and you're still walking up there, and they're like $10 or free if you work the clock. Then
Yeah.
I'd be like the guy like I'll work the clock. Like that's okay. So that's my thing. I don't mind. I get it. You got to charge a door, but come on. Let's not. It shouldn't be the same price to get into Little Caesars to see the Pistons on a random night.
Good one, Mike. I
So,
agree. I agree.
all right, underrated. What do you got, Mike?
Okay, so just from now the coaching standpoint, I really think if the experience is good, you have forged a relationship with X number of kids, and it could last for a lifetime. this depending on when it starts and how old, but I think that's a lot of times that's missed. It's not something I thought too much about when I was younger. Now that I'm on this end of it, I could see it more, and I feel a certain connection with the people I've coached before at younger levels, or even into high school. That it's different than the connection you have in other places. So I'm going with the connections.
Excellent. Danielle.
Yeah, that's a good one. I've coached my daughter's team for 3 seasons now, and that like seeing these girls go from barely dribbling to where they're at now is just, I don't know. I just love them all. But my underrated is, oh, and don't roast me, but participation trophies. I feel like they get a lot of heat and they serve their purpose. As someone who only has participation trophies that still line my bedroom wall, like the kids who are overly competitive, they don't care about the participation trophies. They care about winning. Like it's not going to cheapen their win just by recognizing, that you came out, you participated in something, you tried it, and it kind of serves as like a touchstone. Like, oh wow, I rode the bench for Forest Green Landscaping in '95, and now I have a trophy. And I don't know. So underrated participation trophies. Don't come for me.
Okay.
I think that's more of a boomer. I think Gen X, we just don't, I don't care. It didn't bother me. And I think we sort of caught the late end of it because I remember the late end of I thought at the late end. And then, hey, by the way, I'm like looking at one right here. Like I did the Free Press International. I was nowhere near finishing in the top, whatever. And look at, they gave me one of these, like even, like here you go. Guess what? It's the
Yeah.
same one, probably mostly 80%. So even the Free Press International Marathon, it's sitting here on my desk. So I agree. I think that's a more boomer thing to complain about. It doesn't really, there are many other things that irk me in society than participation. I don't think it's the downfall of society that the boomers think it is.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and if it
My
keeps people playing a sport, you know what I mean? That's a good thing, right? I
Yeah,
mean, if
Mhm.
it
I mean, I don't think it's the downfall of it, but it is what it is. The boomers are going to be angry about it. My underrated. This is not going to come a shocker to anybody or any of all of our listeners. When I coached youth sports, I still go back to one of our mini Marauder baseball teams, which I liked mini Marauders because it was not travel. It was supposed to
Hmm.
be just rec. My son was not the greatest baseball player in the world, but he wanted to do something in the summer, so he played baseball on this team, and it was a little bad news bears style. And I remember we finally won a game on a walk-off triple play. Like this, where the bases were loaded, we were going to go down, and this kid had a line shot right at our third baseman or our first baseman that he somehow caught. And we got all three guys because they were all caught off the base. And where do we go? We went to Dairy Queen
I
after,
was gonna
and
say it's got to be the snack
it's something.
afterward.
Yeah, it's going to be and that Dairy Queen, and it's one that we don't even really go to. That it was up in Trenton because we were playing in Trenton. The one over there on the West Road Bridge, which is down a lane because it's corroding and falling apart. But that Dairy Queen were there. The kids, you would have thought we won the World Series, and they had the time of their life, and that's something that youth sports still holds. That's a great thing. So.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes, not a shocker that it was food. So,
Always
all right,
food.
always food. Always comes back to food. Danielle mentioned earlier, you sort of like let it go, Mike. It was the TikTok, the pop review. I sort of put Mountain Dew in a pretty bad, in a mid-range spot. I thought no, that was Dr. Pepper. Mountain Dew was way back. It was like in the
Yeah, it
eight,
was
nine,
like
10.
8. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm getting. Not only Danielle, my brother-in-law was shocked and disappointed. Jim, my brother-in-law Jim, was disappointed in my ranking of Mountain Dew. I it's just low on my rankings. I apologize, Danielle. I hope we can still put that behind us.
And it wasn't even your opinion of it that really unsettled me, but you besmirched. You were like, "Oh, my palate's evolved."
I did. I sort of, I sort of became a little pop snob, I guess you would.
As
Yeah.
I'm drinking a Mountain Dew, I was like, "This guy."
And I used to, what I used to really love. I used to love Moon Mist, the Fago,
The Fago version.
the Fago version.
Oh.
All right, hot mic take. Danielle, do you have something for us this week?
Um, no, but I just want to really hammer home the support of Mountain Dew, and it's not just for 15-year-old boys. It's
Like,
for grown professionals. There's nothing. Coke, you can have Pepsi. Sprite, you can have Sierra Mist or whatever it's called now. There is
sorry, I
no,
believe is the
other than Moon Mist, which is, we don't count that. There is no like replacement for Mountain Dew. And I don't
so do
drink
you
coffee
oh,
or anything. So Mountain Dew is where I'm
that's your
getting my
That's your
supply of
so
caffeine.
caffeine.
so are
Yeah.
you do you drink the straight Mountain Dew or are you like one of these flavors? Because Tom Pack was like a Code Red guy, I believe.
No, I'm a purist. I want it.
Original,
Yes.
non-diet, non-zero sugar.
Right.
What's your thoughts on the, of course, the Taco Bell, what is it, Baja Blast? Or isn't that what it is?
Yeah. See, I don't like that.
You know,
I
that's so
don't,
that's okay.
it's
Well,
like,
Danielle, they did a. I used to drink this. I haven't drank pop in a long time, but they did an energy drink called Amp. That was a Mountain Dew energy drink. Did you like that?
yeah, yeah. It put me in the hospital. It was, it was really big when I was in college, and I would drink like three or four of them
Oh
before
man.
my composition class. And I was like, they were like, "Are you okay?" I was sweating. I was like, "I think I'm having a heart attack." My heart rate was like
Jeez,
175. So I still drank them though. I loved them.
there you go.
Wow.
So
I was having like one a day for a while, and I remember when I kicked it, it was like I remember one of the last I wanted to get one and I didn't have any money on me, and I'm like reaching in my for change on in between the seats in my car, and my arms getting stuck. I'm like, God, this I think I have a problem.
like a
Um,
jeez, got to go on
but
intervention.
yeah, but I don't think they sell them anymore though. But I used to drink those a lot as well. Not I wouldn't have two or three though. I think I would have had a heart attack.
All right,
Yeah.
Mike, what's your hot mic then? Now that we've buried the Mountain Dew passion.
So, I got an email from a former student. This is just such a cool thing that happened, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because I didn't ask him for permission to talk about this. But he was a kid that I had a decent relationship with. Not bad, not good. It was just one day in particular, he kind of made me mad, and we had a conversation after, and I really got mad at him. And he informed me I used an expletive, which uh, this is a family friendly show, so I won't say what I said. But whatever I said really had such an impact. He wrote me this past week, 14 years later, to tell me what an impact that conversation had on him. It was such a nice, thoughtful. It really was one of the most heartwarming emails I've gotten from a former student, and I've gotten a few. But the moral of it is, man, you never know when like a just a mundane conversation can lead to something. You never
No,
know. And so I was humbled. And I'd mentioned it to you. Maybe we'll try to get him on because he's doing something pretty cool that I think would be pretty interesting as well. But just for the listener, these little mundane things, and I would love to hear from any listener, or maybe Danielle, if you have something like just an anecdote of something where you didn't think anything of this interaction, and here you are some years later, and you find out that it had this impact. So that's my hot mic.
yeah, that's a good one. Much like mine, put your head down and take a nap.
See, you never
You,
know.
you never
You
know.
never know. Put your head down,
I'm
take
sure
it
whenever
down.
she walks by a paper shredder now, that's what she thinks of. With like someone's medical records or something. She doesn't tempt fate.
I don't even look at paper shredders now.
Oh, look what you did.
Oh man, scarred for life. My hot mic take. So the weather's been pretty lousy. I've been trying to do this walking thing, and Michigan. I'm just dying for February to be over. And so my question for you two and guests in general, I- I've never been a gym guy ever, and I don't want to get a gym guy to be like pumping iron per se, but I'm getting there at 50. I am middle age, and this walk. I like to walk every day, and I plan to still walk, but I'm starting to think about dipping my toe in the water of joining a gym just to have the ability to not walk on days like I did today when it was like 17 degrees and cold and windy. But I'm also like, can I get myself into this? Will I be like a doofus going in there? Are you two either members of gyms? Have you ever been? And what's your philosophy on this? You two are in
Danielle.
much better shape than I am, by the way. So
Um, Me, I give Planet Fitness money every month. I don't know the last time I've been in there. But I can't work out at home because I'll just find other things to do. And I need someone to like tell me what to do.
Okay.
So if you've never been to Cyphus, it's like right over on Gibraltar Road.
Yeah, right up by the Kroger.
Yeah, hard. You will feel like you're dying, but it's amazing. And it's kind of like every day is something different. And another thing that I love that I think you may also enjoy is yoga. Also hard, you will sweat, especially hot yoga, but you just feel better after. Like, I don't know, for a while I didn't know I had full range of motion in my shoulder, and it was just because I wasn't using it.
Okay.
So that
All
might be
right.
something to think about.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Mike, what about you? You just
Yeah,
do what you got to do?
yeah, I was younger. I went to Taylor Rec Center. There was a gym there, and I'd go work out. I wasn't buff enough, but at that time I was fine. And uh, uh, my question for you is: you're planning on walking on the treadmill there? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, some of that. I was thinking, well, my son, I went way back in the holidays. Nate wanted to join LA Fitness, and I had to sign all the paperwork because he's not an adult.
Right.
And the girl's like, "You want to add in for this much?" And I probably should have because it was probably like a better deal. And I'm like, "No, I'm fine walking." And I'll normally walk, like I try to walk 2 miles every morning. That's the goal. The
Yeah.
problem is the weather hasn't been that cooperative, and I still would, but I also realized I have to start doing some other stuff too because that's not enough. That's not enough
Gotcha.
because I'm
Okay.
still going to walk the dog. But so I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. And then like Elisa's, the Blue Cross Blue Shield we're on has a thing where it's like you run the membership through them, and it's like you can switch it to places, and it's $28 a month, I guess. And but I don't want to end up being like Danielle and joining somewhere and I pay it
I know. I
and not
just,
go.
yeah. I mean, to me, if it's just the walking part, I know it's tough with the weather as it is right now, and it might limit some days in the winter. But I don't think you could beat walking outside or running outside versus the treadmill. And that's my line of thinking there. Like you're probably not going to use it in the summer. But again, if you're
Yeah.
going to do other things, then that makes
Well,
total
maybe I
sense.
do it next November.
Yeah, give it a shot.
I also like the idea of a pool. I'm a former swimmer.
Yeah,
It could connect there.
get
It's
you out
better.
there.
It's better for your joints.
It is. It's a
Yeah,
great, to me.
100%.
Listen, that's what I tell all the high school swimmers. The best part about being a swimmer in high school is you could eat whatever you wanted because it was
Yeah.
all. It was but that the problem is if, as I learned as a high school swimmer, that stops if you stop swimming. You can't eat whatever you want once you stop swimming. So, Danielle, we want to thank you. You were a great guest. It was great to see you and hear from you. I love both the input, both on your career and your writing. I really hope our listeners go out and get the one that's out there now. It's a great read. It's you will laugh, you will cry. It's just real. I guess that's the. I mean, I know it's sort of like a basic sort of term to use, but it was so real to me. I could hear you telling the story about walking your dog. I mean, it'd be like something you'd come talk to me in class about, that still stands out to me. That section of and it makes because when I walk my dog, I feel like the same way. It's like, it's like this. It's always a struggle, but the dog loves it, and all those things. So check it out. I'm definitely gonna get the new one when it comes out. Mike, you got anything you want to wrap up in here with?
No, Danielle, first off, thank you. But can I ask Danielle, are you a Michigan or Michigan State basketball fan?
Michigan.
Okay, big game Friday. You guys want to make some predictions here?
Where's this game at? I don't even know.
It's at Chrysler.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm always gonna bet on Michigan.
Okay, Mike.
I've just like I've said before, I have not watched 1 second of college basketball this year. So I know they're both playing well, and it sounds like I'm really the Ren Dog pointed this out. I'm probably, if I had to bet, going to be a state of Michigan man. Nate is really leaning towards Michigan State, so I'll be sending checks to both
Right.
area. I mean, I'm literally going to be that doofus with the house divided flag, more than likely. So everyone wins in this case. So I'm going to be a coward and not pick anybody.
Okay. Well,
The
I'm
Ren
gonna.
Dog did. The Ren Dog did want us to pick this. He
Oh, he
said we
did.
had to pick it. So I'm going to say Michigan. Michigan's going to win at home. I mean, that's
They're at home.
nothing wrong
Okay.
with that.
I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm gonna go Michigan as well. I think but again, Mike, I know it's college basketball is so dead around here. This is it's a Friday night game, but like you said, both teams are doing really well. So I think this is going to be a very good one.
All right. Well, again, Danielle, thanks for joining us. Again, go check out her book, and we will see everybody next week.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.